Hey guys, what's going on? I'm trying new camera for the first time, so if the audio and visual are different than before, that's why. I just did a test and it seemed fine, so I guess we'll go with it. Um, by the title of the video, you're like, wow, that's pretty negative, Robert. What the fuck's going on with this? I'm just like, how can you see what's going on throughout all these months? Basically, ever since coronavirus hit in March, but also it accelerated after the George Floyd riot started in, what was that, very end of May? George Floyd died on May 25th, and the riots and everything going on since then. So we've been only been dealing with this for what's that, 6 weeks? Coming up on 2 months now. That's it. And it feels like it's been going on forever because so much shit has happened. So much change has radically happened in such a short amount of time that it feels like it's a lot of time, but it's really not. It's only been 6, coming up on 7 weeks now. It's fucking ridiculous. I don't see how anyone could see what is going on during this time and just be, yep, no, it's fine. It's kind of stressful, but no big deal. We'll pull through. It's like, no. What has happened in this short amount of time in this country has permanently changed this country for a long, long time. And I think the reason why so many people aren't like enraged the way I am, or they are burnt out. I'm burnt out. I'm kind of like, I have so much to talk about, but I really don't want to talk about it because it's the same thing over and over again. This sucks. We're all screwed. Democrats suck. Republicans also suck, but in different ways. Blah blah, and then that's the end of it. And it's just like I feel like I'm repeating myself ad nauseum. So in a way, I am burnt out, and I can see why people would be burnt out. But there's a difference between being burnt out and therefore not talking about it as much, and then just never acknowledging like half the shit that's going on in this country at all, and acting like it's not happening, and when someone mentions it, you're like, whoa, why are you saying that? Like, it's just wrong. Like, it's so 1984 communist China party-ish, where like if you mention something that they deem they don't want you to talk about, it's like if you say free Tibet in some near Chinese soldiers, they will just pounce on you and arrest you right off the bat without even questioning. It's kind of like that. It's just like, oh, I don't believe masks uh, help against stopping coronavirus. I don't think everyday people should wear them. I think healthcare workers and people working in retail, like people working with people, should wear them. But everyone in mass should not wear them, especially the ones that don't even work. I'm like, what? You want to hate grandma? What's the big deal about wearing a mask, bro? Like, it's are you saying it's your right? Where's that in the Constitution? Like, they act like it's so weird that I dare offer a contrary opinion. But so there's a difference between being burnt out and just not acknowledging half. So many things are going on in this country, like half or three-quarters of things going on. I feel like lots of the country is in the not acknowledging part. We have so many people that are not acknowledging, for example, that white people are getting targeted and beat and killed on the streets in mass by black and other minority rioters and thugs, all in the name of George Floyd or police brutality or change or systemic racism. They just act like it never happens. They will post every single time a black person is killed by police, but they will never ever post anywhere when a white person is killed by police or by rioters. They will deny that any riots taking place, or maybe there's some, but those are in the minority. The majority have been mostly peaceful. That's the phrase I like to use. Mostly peaceful. Wait, so if 90% of a crowd is peaceful and the other 10% like burn shit and kill people, is that just not a big deal? Because they were mostly peaceful. So it has to cross the 51%, 51% were violent in order to be, oh, that's a violent riot. Let's get the police involved. Oh, wait, we don't want the police involved because they're racist, so never call the police, which, again, I'm going over that in the Black Lives Matter, so I won't go into that too much. But the events of the last, let's just say since George Floyd, because the coronavirus, from March to May, I think we were able to turn around by that point. Yeah, things majorly fucking suck dick, and I was really fucking pissed off. But we were able to turn things around because we didn't have to deal with this. I don't even know what to call it. Like, we're turning into an apartheid system in this country. I know people are going to tell me that's exaggeration. I know it. Like, whoa. Like, just, just this exhausts me. This really does. Dealing with this shit day in and day out. Sometimes I just unplug and I just like, you know what, I'm done reading my bullshit. People can be stupid. I'm by myself. It's fine, whatever. But I feel like I've talked about it at least once a week. I have to keep the political commentary going at least once a week. So I don't know how you could see what's happening in this country if you're actually paying attention to what's happening in this country with how socially and then eventually that will move legally because none of this is written in law yet, obviously. But socially, we are moving towards a society where we're letting black people do almost whatever they want, and we are relentlessly attacking white people for breaking no laws whatsoever. They're simply exercising their rights. You're going to be like, whoa, that's a gross exaggeration, dude. What are you talking about? People are systemically oppressed in this country. What are you saying that they're above white people now and whites are being systemically oppressed more than blacks? Like, that's exactly opposite of what CNN has told me every single day for the past 12 fucking years. Like, I will never be able to convince someone who literally watches no alternative media and only watches mainstream because I watch mainstream only to critique it and find out what like the masses are listening to or to counter mainstream narratives. So I know what they're saying. And I'm thinking to myself, if I only listen to this drivel 24/7 and never listen to alternative media on other platforms, no wonder like half more than half the country is completely fucking brainwashed and believes all of this ridiculous, stupid fucking shit because they only listen to those news sources. And you know, that all media, that you've seen the charts of like five companies control almost every single media outlet, national media outlet. I'm not talking about local news. Local news is actually more trustworthy than national overall because they have no reason to be biased. They're just reporting local news. They don't, some of them are like liberal, like radical liberal as fuck. So don't get me wrong, it's not 100%. But overall, they have no reason to because they're not funded by the five companies that control all of national media who have a reason to push a narrative. Back to my point. I know we're jumping around a lot here, but there's so many things to talk about here in this stupid stew of bullshit. I think it's a new phrase. I think I should keep that one. Um, we can look to lots of examples that isolated or is like, well, it's kind of weird and kind of like not fair, but no big deal. But taken as a whole, in the fact that all of these things have happened in 6 weeks, that is showing what society wise we are moving towards. For example, a group of Black Lives Matter rioters they break into a neighborhood, they break through a gate of a private residence and threaten a white couple. We're going to beat you up, we're going to kill you, and they get their weapons to defend themselves. And what's the result of this? None of the black people are charged with illegally trespassing or threatening any like, issuing threats or anything like that. They are let completely off the hook. None of them are charged with anything. However, the white couple has their firearms confiscated, and the DA is thinking about pressing charges of a hate crime against them, or saying that they were threatening the protesters. So they were the ones being charged with threats. That is the clown world we live in, where breaking into someone's home, into someone's yard, is not threatening and no big deal, but defending your own property is a crime. Now, if the situation were reversed, if a group of MAGA Trump supporters broke into a black person's yard and the black person got weapons to defend themselves, you know 100 fucking percent that the same result would not happen. You know this because you're listening to alternative media, so you're not brainwashed by CNN and MSC and all the other alphabet soup companies. We have racialized justice. And people will say, "Wait, we've had that for quite some time. It favors whites and it is against blacks." No, actually, it's reverse. And again, that's a whole separate topic for another time. But now we have that's just one example. We have examples of black people breaking into Target and beating up employees and burning stuff, and then the mayor orders the police to stand down and let him do it in the name of police brutality. They are allowed to do this. If a group of white protesters or white rioters broke into a store and started beating up people and stealing stuff and burning stuff, you know absolutely 100% they would send in the police to attack them. And how do you know it's true? Because when white gun owners went to a rally in Richmond, I believe in February, yes, because it was before all this crap happened, they went to Richmond by the tens of thousands, I believe, armed to the teeth, but they were peaceful and they were standing up for their gun rights for the Second Amendment. The liberal media was squawking incoherently that white terrorists were descending on Richmond and that they were a threat to our democracy and that we should send in the troops to sort them all out and that they should be arrested and fined and put in jail, whatever, whatever. But they were completely peaceful. Nothing happened the entire fucking time. They did nothing wrong. Everything they did was completely lawful. You are allowed to open carry in Virginia. You are allowed to peacefully assemble in Virginia. Not anymore because of COVID, but that's beside the point. All of this stuff was legal, and yet still they were squawking that these are white supremacist terrorists. I saw that multiple outlets for days. It wasn't just one. I'm not just cherry picking here. It was multiple outlets reporting this for days and weeks after the event. Yet it was completely peaceful, and they picked up trash after themselves. So after the rally, you could barely tell there was a rally at all. What compare that to Black Lives Matter protests, who burn stores to the ground and murder people in the streets in cold blood? Well, but since the identity is different, the response from the authority and the justice system is radically 100% different. Wow, what a coincidence! It's almost like that's how you would make an apartheid system. That is what Israelis do with Palestinians. In Israel, there's a separate legal system for Jews and Arabs. There are different judges, different courts, different fines, different punishments for the exact same crime. That is codified in their legal system. It is written down. You can look it up at any time. It's not just, oh, it's just a conspiracy amongst the Israeli Jews judges and stuff. They just, oh, we'll favor when a Jew does something and we'll punish an Arab. No, it's codified in their legal system. And what we're doing here is the first step towards that, to make it socially acceptable to racialize justice. So many people act like this doesn't happen, and because they know that they speak out against it, they'll be labeled a white supremacist, radicalist terrorist. They want people to cower in submission, just let the mob do what they want. They want the authorities, the governors and the mayors, to do what they want and let all of this happen. We have another situation out of, I forget what this was. It was the Chipotle incident. You can just look that up and find it. I forget where in the country it was, but a white woman just happened to bump into a black woman at the restaurant, and the black woman squawked incoherently that she's a racist, and then began racially insulting her, saying, "I'm going to beat your white ass." And then when the white woman decided to leave, she blocked her car and then ran into the car, saying, "You ran me over." And then when the white woman pulled a gun on her, then the white woman was charged with a crime. The black woman was completely scot-free. Nothing happened to her at all. But a white woman was arrested for defending herself and her husband, and both of them and her husband were fired from their jobs. When have you imagine if the situation was reversed? That would never fly in this racially justice system we have in this country. We would never have a white person bumping into a black person by mistake, the white person squawking incoherently that this black person's a racist, and the black person's like, I have enough of this shit, I'm just going to leave. Block them from backing their car up, and then like diving into the car saying, "Oh, you hit me," like just faking all of this shit. Then the black woman pulls out a gun to defend herself. Then the black woman's arrested for something. I think it was like assault or something, like threatening manner, displaying a firearm in a threatening manner. So when white people draw their weapons to defend themselves, it automatically is drawing a weapon in a threatening manner. Isn't that interesting? Black people can murder white people in the streets with guns and 2x4s and knives, and that's not threatening. And the police can't be called for that because that's racist. We already have these acts in, I think San Francisco is one of them. I think there's a statewide California act being passed also, or at least considered to be passed, where if you're calling the police against a black person and they view it as no big deal, you can be charged with filing a false police report. And it's up to their interpretation whether they think that claim is valid or not. The claim came from a woman who was in, this is in New York, no, this is separate. There's two separate things, one in New York and one in California. A woman was in Central Park, and this black man was harassing her and stalking her. So then she called the police because she's like, "This guy is weird. He's like trying to give treats to my dog to try to like coax him over. So I have to follow him to try to get near me." and he whispered in my ear, "You're not gonna like what happens next." Like this is, I'm not making this shit up. Okay, this isn't some fringe crap. You can look it up. It's like, oh, the internet lies, right? So like 20 different local news and other internet things came together and made all this up. Okay, we'll come back to you when you're done being a child. But regardless, this did happen. And she was charged with filing a false police report. So black men are allowed to stalk and harass white women, and they can weasel their way out of it. And it's no big deal. You can't call the police for that. You can't call the police for pretty much anything because they have taught society that calling the police automatically leads to black people being killed. So if you want to save black lives, if you truly care about black lives, then you will not call the police no matter what they do. Because apparently the police, every single time they're called on black people, they just automatically shoot them, just without question. Just, yeah, that happens all the time, right? That's why white people are shot like 3 times as much. Yep, it's just, they only do that for black people. And black people are never actually arrested. They're just shot on sight. That's why the jails are just empty and never full of black people, because they're just shot on sight every single time the police are called on them. Didn't you know? Like, I thought you knew. Like, Anderson Cooper told me this. Like, it's true, right? Like, just, holy fuck, are you kidding me? Self-defense is not allowed. We have a man, I believe, in, I think it was Arizona or New Mexico, who's being attacked by a racist mob trying to tear down, I believe, a conquistador statue. I think that was in New Mexico. I don't remember exactly. So it was one of those Southwest states. And he was protesting. He's like, hey, you guys shouldn't pull that statue down. They attacked him with knives and skateboards, and he drew out a gun to defend himself. He's being charged with assault. So minorities can attack white people with skateboards and knives, and that's perfectly okay in this new de facto legal system that they are trying to create here, which is exactly what Black Lives Matter want. If you check out other videos and other manifestos, it's exactly what they want. They want black people to be able to do whatever the fuck they want and to be held to a different standard than even other minorities. But like minorities are basically better than white people. And then in the bubble, black people are better than minorities. They outline this all. This is no secret. They're not trying to hide the racism. This is all here. It's not some conspiracy theory. We have Black Lives Matter leaders saying that whites are subhumans. They are degenerates by their genetics. Mainstream media will never ever mention this. Your liberal friends will never ever mention this or share this on Facebook or Twitter. They will never, they act like it won't happen because it goes against their narrative and it makes their cause look bad, so they just won't mention it. You can Google it. She's not denying it. No one's trying to hide it. They're just not mentioning it because it's okay for black people to say that. If a white MAGA hat wearing Trump supporter said that blacks are subhuman, they are degenerates, you know that'll be plastered on the media for 3 weeks straight. We had a white boy from Kentucky in just 2019, just last year, just smile at a Native American, and he was doxxed, harassed, threatened with jail time, and the story ran for like 3 weeks straight. Black people can murder white people by the dozens in streets, nothing. So a white boy smiling is worse than black people murdering white people. That's how they view us. That's what they want the political and justice system to work in this country. And you're like, well, that's just 4 examples. The couple in St. Louis, the Chipotle incident, the New Mexico incident, and then the incident this was in Indianapolis where there was a young couple. It was a white woman and her fiance who was Hispanic. Black Lives Matter walked by them saying Black Lives Matter, and the white woman dared say all lives matter, and then they shot her right in the face, right in front of her fiance and her 3-year-old son. Imagine if the situation was reversed. Imagine if a black couple was minding their own business and white racist KKK or MAGA supporters or whatever situation you want to think of are marching down the street saying that all lives matter, and then the black person says, actually, Black Lives Matter, and they shoot her in the face right in front of her fiance and her 3-year-old son. Imagine if that happened. Well, I can guarantee you that would never fucking happen. Even if it did, that would be on the news for 3 weeks straight saying how white people are racist, MAGA supporters are racist, Trump's a racist, Orange Man bad, we need to give money to blacks and disband the police and take away people's guns, white people's guns because they're racist and white supremacists, and blah, 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 but just non-stop parroting nonstop squawking like annoying little fucking birds for 3+ weeks. That might actually warrant a fourth week because that's pretty egregious. The fact that I can point to those four examples I mentioned, that it happened, I think those all happened within like 4 or 5 weeks. Let's say 5 weeks, because I forget if the New Mexico one happened 4 or 5 weeks ago. The fact that I can point to all these things happening. Oh, and all the riots and burning, like just countless examples, like dozens and dozens of examples within weeks. So this is multiple examples a day we're talking about here, where the exact same thing happens depending on the race. And you're saying that, oh, that's not a trend. That's not, a change in our country. That's not a bad thing. That's not showing the ulterior motives of these Marxists and these rioters and Black Lives Matter. Like that's not anything. It's just that black people are hurt because of slavery. So they need to do this in order to voice their feelings about slavery. Or they just don't admit it's happening. It's like, wait, what do you mean a white woman was murdered for saying all lives matter? Anderson Cooper didn't tell me that. Trevor Noah didn't tell me that. John Oliver didn't tell me that. So did it really happen? You're spreading fake news, aren't you? Actually, it's reported by here, left-leaning source, right-leaning source, international source, British source, local news, blah, 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 blah. Like, this literally did happen. Heck, you can call up the county police and say, did this happen? Did you see this report that the police were called to this thing? If you wanted to go that far, if you don't trust any of those sources for some magical fucking reason, it did happen. But they will never mention it. The mainstream media will never talk about it. Your liberal friends will never share it. They will never say justice for whatever her name was. I forgot what her name was. I'm such a bad person. I forgot her name. They will never share justice for this. They will never say arrest the killers of this young fiance, this young mother. They will never, ever, ever do it. They will only do it when it suits their narrative. And the fact that all of these things are happening in such a short amount of time, all going in one political direction, that is pro-black, anti-white, pro-Marxist, anti-freedom, pro-big government, anti-small government and freedom, and anti-constitution. The fact that all of this is happening synchronized. It's not an accident. These things don't just happen. They're happening for a reason, and the reason is very, very sinister. It's going to radically change this country for the worst. And the fact that so many people act like it's not happening, it's just bewildering to me. Like, do white liberals think that, oh yeah, once the Black Lives Matter get into power, they're going to accept me and I'm going to be perfectly safe? No, you're going to be the first on their chopping block, you fucking idiot. Like, how can you not see they don't give a shit about you? So that's, I guess, the whole crux of this issue. I was actually going to talk about, like, I'm basically done. I've already said that in the last video. Like, this country's a freaking joke. There's going to be no justice. You're going to be completely on your own. The police will not help you. The justice system will not help you. The mob will come after you. You will lose everything if you are white and you dare stand up for yourself and your rights or your property or your family. That's what will happen. Odds are, yeah, it's not going to happen to you. It's just luck of the draw. These people just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time and become the ire of this newfound rage against white people, which this has been going on for quite some time, don't get me wrong, but it's been amplified after the George Floyd protests. Odds are, yeah, it's not personally going to happen to you, but it might. It might happen to someone you know. It's going to happen. It's going to happen with increased frequency unless we come up with a way to stop this. So you're on your own. You have to rely just on the weapons you have, the knowledge you have, the land you have, the defenses you have, the food you have. That's it. That's all you have. It is you against the mob. The mob will come for you. I bet that St. Louis couple didn't think, wow, I don't think violent thugs are going to come down our street in our neighborhood. Well, I bet that person at Chipotle, I can never say that name right, at Chipotle will be like, oh, I don't think I'm going to lose my job because I bumped into someone in Chipotle. Everyone thinks it's not going to happen to them until it happens to them. Everyone thinks, oh, that's going to happen to someone else. But the thing is, to everyone else in the world, you are that someone else.